This is a special presentation of Eyewitness Sports. The world's top auto racers meet in Ohio today. The Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course is the 13th stop in a season that is still wide open to today's drivers. Defending track champion Alex Zanardi returns to defend his title. He's trying to pull away from the rest of the pack to win his first kart championship. In Zanardi's rearview mirror is Brian Herta. He holds this year's fastest lap at Mid-Ohio and is primed to take the checkered flag.
I think a win at Mid-Ohio would just be so sweet.
Herta's teammate Bobby Rahal hasn't won in 82 races. In Rio, his luck and gas ran out on the final lap. Then, 2 weeks ago in Michigan, he gave his lead to the wall in turn 2. Tasman Motorsports has struggled this season but is riding high on newly found speed through some recent engineering breakthroughs. A team accustomed to winning is now fighting its way back on their home track. Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio is firing up.
And you are looking at live pictures from Chopper 10 of Ohio's premier racetrack, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and we are just hours away from dropping the green flag. Hello, I'm Jay Crawford, and welcome to the Emmy Award-winning Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio. Over the next half hour, I'll be joined by the entire Eyewitness Sports team, and we will present the most in-depth coverage of today's race, the Miller 200. And we begin our coverage at the top with qualifying. Over the past 2 days, 28 drivers have been battling for position as they try to clock the fastest lap and earn the coveted pole position. No one has been faster in qualifying than New Albany's Brian Herta. He'll start from the pole, and start position is huge here, as no driver has ever won at Mid-Ohio, starting further back than 8th position. Here now is a look at how today's field will start the race.
Brian Herta is the fastest man in Ohio. Yesterday, Herta secured the pole after 2 fantastic qualifying sessions. Brian's last pole was in Phoenix 2 years ago. He's yet to win a kart race. Herta is hopeful that this will be his breakthrough day.
Well, this is definitely one of the favorites, no question about it. It's a fun race, and it's a fun weekend for our team because everyone comes up from Columbus. So, going to enjoy it, hopefully go fast, do real well, and enjoy the weekend.
Starting next to Herta in the front row is rival Alex Zanardi. The PPG points leader has 3 wins this season and is just a fraction off the pole. Last year, Zanardi won here from the pole, and with Jimmy Vassar's runner-up finish, he gave the Target Ganassi team their first ever 1-2 finish. Greg Moore, Gilles DeFerrin, Dario Franchitti round out the top 5. Next, it's Mauricio Gugelmin, Scott Pruitt, Christian Fittipaldi, Jimmy Vassar, and Michael Andretti rounding out your top 10 qualifiers. Raul Boisel and Parker Johnstone start from row 6. As for Bobby Rahal, he'll start in the middle of the pack, qualifying 16th. This is Rahal's worst qualifying position ever at Mid-Ohio. He won this race in back-to-back years in 85 and 86 and has held the pole twice.
You still get that special feeling when you come here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it would be impossible not to.
Your next fastest local driver is Andre Ribeiro. He'll start from the 17th position behind Rahal. His season has been reborn after switching to the Renard chassis halfway through the season. He would love to have a good finish on this, his team's home turf.
This is our home race. Everybody involved on the team is from this area. So will be a lot of people around here related to the team, and we need to have a good result for them.
Ribeiro's Tasman teammate Adrian Fernandez will start from the 21st spot. Those starting from this far back in the pack have a long day ahead of them on a course not known for its passing opportunities.
The kart season drifts into August. The heat and humidity can really take its toll. In fact, on a hot day, drivers can lose as much as 15 pounds during the course of a single race. However, today's cooler than normal temperatures will actually be a nice change, a welcome change for the drivers. It'll also give the drivers a little bit of advantage as the tires will certainly have a little bit more grip. To see what else this track can dish out, here's an inside look at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
The track at Mid-Ohio is perhaps the most technical course on the kart circuit. There's a total of 13 curves lying in wait, with the most trouble in turns 4, 5, and 6. The drivers refer to this portion of the track as the S's. The S's make up the signature portion of the track, and while it certainly is the most dangerous, it also serves as the biggest opportunity for drivers to make passes. Defending track champion Alex Zanardi set the track's one-lap competition record last year of just over 66 seconds, averaging 122 miles an hour. The track is 2.25 miles in length, and the drivers will make 83 laps before seeing the checkered flag.
And right now, the Atlantics are wrapping up their warm-up session. They'll actually race at 5 o'clock after the main race, the Miller 200. That will be the final race of the day. Right now, we want to update you on the current track conditions, and with our own eye in the sky, let's go to Andy Baskin. He is in Chopper 10. Andy?
Thanks, Jay. You know, right now, the way things look, it might rain a little bit after 1 o'clock here, but those are perfect conditions if the rain holds off for this track today. Mild temperatures, those are all good news for these racers. Now, cool temperatures are also good news for the wear and grip on the tires. Goodyear and Firestone are at war trying to provide the best rubber compound to give the best grip and durability during these competitions. All right, now if the winds stay calm this afternoon and things stay pretty good down on the course, we expect nothing but good things, and this race to start right on time at 3 o'clock. Jay?
Right, Andy Baskin reporting live from Chopper 10, high above Mid-Ohio. Thanks a lot. There is much more ahead on Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio. For a preview, let's check in with the rest of the Eyewitness Sports team.
I'm Dom Tiberian, the Tasman Garage, and coming up, I'll introduce you to a lady that is truly in a league of her own. Now let's check in with Andy Baskin.
Thanks, Dom. You know, there's more to the Tasman Motorsports Group than just kart racing. I'm Andy Baskin. That story coming up, but first, let's check in with Mike Gleason.
Thanks, Andy. I'm Mike Gleason in the Team Rahal Garage, and coming up next, we'll talk with Brian Herta, who would love nothing more than to pick up his first victory this afternoon at Mid-Ohio. And we'll be back with more Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio right after this.
Welcome back to Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio. The first IndyCar race was held here way back in 1980. The course is the racing legacy of True Sports founder Jim Truman. He, of course, was the team owner for Bobby Rahal when he won the Indianapolis 500 back in 1986. Now, for current Rahal teammate and local driver Brian Herta, this track here at Mid-Ohio has some special meaning because it's helped him mark some career milestones along the way. It was here in 1993 that Brian Herta clinched his Indy Lights Championship. And, of course, earlier this year, Brian set the fastest lap in testing ever. He did that when testing his car here earlier this season. However, after 2 full seasons on the kart circuit and aggressive racing, he is yet to win a race. Mike Gleason has more now on this Buckeye driver who starts from the pole today and is looking to build on his past successes here.
Every Indy driver envisions themselves driving into the winner's circle, but few are as hungry as Brian Herta. He's been in love with Indy cars since watching his first race at the age of 6. Last year, his second full season of PPG Cup competition, Herta was named Most Improved Driver. He closed the season with 7 consecutive top 6 finishes, holding down second twice, including the season finale at Laguna Seca, a race he was leading and a finish he'll never forget.
For the battle for the PPG Cup. Look, oh, look at him. Here he comes, and he gets him. Can he get him back? Can he hang on? Oh, look at this. Down through the first on the final lap. Alex Zanardi, remember twice we've had the change on the final lap of the race this year. Alex Zanardi at the top of the hill, an area you would not normally try and pass. Ducks inside of Brian Herta, goes all the way off the course on the right-hand side, and Alex Zanardi with a brilliant move takes the checkered flag.
I'm still pretty off about it. I'm not happy. You know, the winter didn't mellow me out. It's got me pretty fired up.
His first Indy ride was driving for A.J. Foyt at the Brickyard in 1994. Later that same year, his career, if not his life, were threatened after a crash in Toronto left him with severe pelvis and leg injuries. But the very next season, he won the pole in Phoenix and finished second in Cleveland. But the former Indy Lights champion still covets the feeling of holding up the cup while standing in the winner's circle.
I think it's time. We've got a great team here, and you know, I've got a couple years experience in these cars now, and you know, we feel like we've got all the pieces in place, and to an extent, I think there's somewhat of a sense of frustration, at least on my part, that it hasn't happened yet, and that's what you have to fight, because that's not a good thing to be taken into the race car. You just have to relax and have confidence in yourself and the people around you.
There's not one driver who doesn't take his sport seriously, but some drive for the love of driving and the prestige and glamour that goes with it. Others know their car inside and out, almost giving the team an additional engineer.
I like that feel of support. It seemed to help the transitions, especially. So we lost a little rear grip with it.
I like to try and, you know, help the engineers along with how the car's handling and what kind of changes we can make to adjust it or to make it better. And I think we've got a good working relationship that way. I think it's an advantage for us.
I might be hitting a little bit. I'm not sure in between in some of these chicanes. I might be smashing the car and flying it too.
When most people think of Indy cars, the first thing that comes to mind is speed. And the truth is, if you don't have it, you don't win. But there's so much more involved with these million-dollar machines. And there's an unbelievably fine line between a good ride and a bad one.
When the car is working properly, it's really nice. And you can relax more in the car. When the car is not doing what you want it to, you're more tense and you're on edge. And so you end up working a lot harder. The thing that everybody can sort of relate to is driving their car on the road, and you know, all I can say is I just wish it were like that. The fact that we're in a lot of corners over 4 G's of cornering force and definitely over 4 G's under braking, all those forces just working on your body, acting on you all the time.
So when you watch this afternoon's race, keep an eye on the shell car. There's a 26-year-old driver that has a hunger, and if he could order anything on the menu, it would be today's special.
I think a win at Mid-Ohio would just be so sweet.
I'm Mike Gleason for Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Now, with Bobby Rahal starting in the 16th spot, normally he has the crowd support. Brian Herta could be a fan favorite here today. Well, in just about every sport, an argument can be made that women and men cannot compete as equals. Well, in motorsports, there, of course, are no lady T's, and the only rule is the first car across the finish line wins. So, today, Dom Taberry introduces us to an engineer that proves that kart racing may be way ahead of its time.
Speed and dependability, that's the name of the game when it comes to auto racing. Diane Hall knows that all too well. You see, Diane is the chief engineer for the car that is driven by Tasman's Adrian Fernandez.
That was better. The front is a little bit more stable, that means it's better grip.
Okay guys, I want to come down at 3 flats front and rear. So down at 3 flats front and rear, and I want to add 1 turn of front wing, please.
Now, auto racing is a sport primarily dominated by men. As a matter of fact, Diane is the only female engineer competing on the kart circuit. But to Diane and to her teammates, the fact that she is a woman is no big deal.
Yes, it is gender-free. I mean, the most difficult thing, I think, was initially telling the racing driver that he was going to have a female engineer. And once we got over that transition, after the first test, Adrian was fine. And I think in some ways we have a very good relationship because it's like a brother and sister. And I think maybe he sometimes opens up to me more than he maybe did with his previous engineer. Okay, Adrian, so I've lowered the whole of the car, which should give us some more downforce, and I've put another turn of front wing because by lowering the car it actually moves the balance rearward, so I've tried to compensate with front wing.
What is unique is she's a female, but I think all of us here really don't think about her like that. We think about her as a very talented engineer, good credentials, a very good work ethic, and you know, sounds strange, but she's just one of the guys, really.
You might say the car is Diane's baby. Leading up to race day, she's in constant contact over the headset with Adrian. He tells her what the car is doing. It's up to Diane to make the proper adjustments. It's a tedious and delicate procedure, one that requires trust and honesty between driver and engineer.
What's happening is that the whole car is really sliding. As soon as I turn, I cannot take a flat out because I will not make the corner. So it just grabs it all the way to the exit. So still basically push car.
Dropping the tyre pressures 1 psi. See if we can pick up some grip. I'm putting a little bit of cross weight to the left front, sort of 20 pounds. We're still way down on the cross weight that we ran last year. And I'm going 8 turns nose up again, which is exactly the same as the last change that we just did. The most important relationship is the driver-engineer relationship, and to have trust. I mean, the driver has to have trust in the engineer, and the engineer has to have trust that everything the driver feels he will say. Otherwise you will not get anywhere together.
And Adrian does have trust in Diane. He has faith that she will deliver the right setup come race day. And most importantly, a safe setup. Because at the speeds these cars travel, there are not many second chances.
You know, once we start getting to know each other and start working together and all that, it's just like everybody else, just, you know, different characteristics, different personalities, but at the end, she's a good engineer.
Diane and Adrian have formed a special bond, a bond that is based on trust. They work together as one, with the common goal being a trip to the winner's circle. For Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio, I'm Dom Taberry reporting.
All right, Dom Taberry, thank you very much for that inside look behind the scenes with Team Tasman. Coming up next, we'll explore the world of the super touring cars. You'll meet one of your Columbus neighbors that is tearing up the world's fiercest tracks. Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio is back after this. And welcome back to Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio. You know, we're all familiar with Ray Hall, Herta, Ribeiro, and Fernandez, but one name you may not be familiar with is the name of Neil Crompton. He drives in the super touring cars. Andy Baskin had a chance to sit down with Neil recently. We go live now to our eye in the sky. Chopper 10, Andy Baskin. Neil is a guy who's a real up-and-comer.
Oh, he really is, Jay. You know, when you think about racing, you can kind of compare it to baseball in some ways. They've got the minor leagues moving their way up. Well, Tasman Motorsports has their own minor leagues. They've got 2 Indy Lights drivers, and then they've got this guy, Neil Crompton. And I'll tell you what, he really, really adds a lot of flavor to the sport.
The Tasman Motorsports family tree has branched out to the touring car series. Neil Crompton proudly wears the team logo, and this Australian now calls Columbus home.
Position in the car doesn't matter. However, when you drive on the roads around here, that's a slightly different deal, so the people of Columbus should beware. There's an Australian out there who could be very, very dangerous.
What he brings to the track is one of the best touring car drivers in the world. At 37 years old, his career started at just 11. It's been a great ride that's taken this international star to the top of his sport.
It's supposed to reflect the kind of cars that you and I drive on the road, in terms of its size, in terms of the way that it looks, in the way that it performs, and so on. So this is the racing version of that. Having said that, it's a fairly thoroughbred version. When you look inside and around this car, it's a very different animal to the cars that you and I do drive on the road. You know, if we had to build that car from new, we're talking about $350,000. That's a pretty different Honda Accord to the one that you can get at the local Honda dealer.
Crompton's success in the racing world has been well known, but what happens after the checkered flag is what makes Crompton very unique. What he does is he trades in his steering wheel for another tool of the trade when he picks up his microphone and works on Australian television.
Over nearest rival Mark Blundell, in form once again, Bobby Rahal third. Now, I found a lurker in the pit lane here. Derek Daly, welcome. You're working for Canadian Broadcasting this weekend. It's great to have you on Network 10's RPM program.
I'm moonlighting and trying to just broaden my experience. I've had some exposure to doing television work in Australia through a couple of the networks down there. I like it, but no, I'm not Greg Norman. I'm not a superstar. I'm just an ordinary guy from Sydney.
Talk us, what actually did happen this day, Neil?
This is what's regarded as a nightmare, a horror story, in fact. Well, we got 100 metres down. This is my car off the line at Bathurst. Yes. Wayne's on the right. I got a better start than the chief, and somewhere in here there's Phil Ward, and all of a sudden 3 cars don't go into 2. Right. Bang. and bang, that's the wall, and that's me swearing, which makes the picture break up.
Although he's successful as both a broadcaster and a racer, his dream is to pilot an Indy car. He's already tested the Tasman vehicles and dreams about the day he might make the big switch.
Nothing would give me more joy than to grab Andre's or Adrian's car and maybe give them a bad feed the night before so they can't drive the car, and ta-da, I'm standing there with my helmet. I don't know. But no, realistically, I'd love to do that, but I don't think that that's going to happen, but you never say never in this life.
Andy Baskin, Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio.
And we know for sure that Andy is one of the good guys because the channel he broadcasts on in Australia, of course, Channel 10. We'll be back with some final thoughts from Mid-Ohio as they get set for the Miller 200. You're looking at the paddock area here at the racetrack. We'll be back to wrap up our show right after this. Officially, we are now just over 2 hours away from race time. And as we leave you, here's a quick look at the PPG Cup standings heading into this, the 13th race of the season, with only 4 more to go. For the entire Eyewitness Sports team, I'm Jay Crawford, reminding you we'll have complete coverage of today's race on Eyewitness News at 6:30, and of course, more tonight on Wall to Wall Sports at 11:30. On behalf of the entire Eyewitness Sports team, thanks for watching Full Throttle at Mid-Ohio.